All right, we're going to get started, guys. Thank you very much for joining us for the Full Stack Learn and Learn webinar series. I see some familiar faces who have been here earlier this week, so welcome back. To those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Hopefully you get something out of today's session. So for today's session, I'd like to introduce Paul Hoon, the CEO of etrainu, who will be joining us and leading us through today's session. And just to give you a brief overview, etrainu is a leader in the design, development and delivery of blended e-learning academies for small, medium and large-scale enterprise organisations, and work with a number of sporting organisations here in Australia and internationally as well. And it's 100% Australian owned and operated. So Paul, thanks for joining us, and I'll hand the reins over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Cam. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to interact today, again, across in the chat box. We typically like to start off with when we're sitting with our customers on what their issues are that they're facing. And so they can be varied. Some organisations are using e-learning as part of their process with their membership. Some people are at the start of their journey. What we've obviously seen with COVID-19 is there's been a really big push to online learning and video conferencing. So from our perspective, it's been a lot of just supporting our existing and new customers be able to communicate online and capture those records, delivery of learning. So we've been quite fortunate amongst everything that's gone on. So yeah, feel free to put any concerns or issues that you want me to specifically address today. But otherwise, I'll get started. I guess, firstly, we've sort of been part of the sports TG and Stack Sports journey for a long time, maybe more than 10 years, I think it's been. We started, our first shared customer together was the NRL. We were quite fortunate to be working on that project for about 8 seasons in both the design and development of their coaching and referee resources, their protection of their membership, and a whole raft of content across their grassroots sport. And so that's where we first met the Sports TG, or Stack Sports business. And you know, I think we've worked the same way for a very long time. We've really worked in partnership. We've always treated each other along with our customers as equals, and we've all just got on with how do we help solve our customers' problems. And I think that's the big thing when you're working with any of your providers, is you've got to find and connect with partners, not vendors. Vendor relationships sometimes can get a little bit toxic as people change and evolve. And as you can appreciate in our business, the people that we start dealing with at the start of a project is typically never the people that we finish dealing with a year or 2 years later. So working in partnership is really, really important for us, and certainly Stack Sports a key part of that. I thought I'd start off talking about learning as a whole, and talking about how the ecosystem or the environment can actually help the learning journey. Because ultimately what we are trying to do is we're trying to build learning culture organisationally. And in sporting organisations, that's always a challenge. You know, it's all volunteer, it's all membership based. It's not like working with our corporate customers who, you know, have got people on a payroll. They can demand that people do things. They can have it as part of their employment contracts. So working with a really dispersed membership is often challenging. And so the environment really sets up the success of how these programs roll out long term. We ultimately, we've been managing these processes for organisations almost in preparation for COVID-19, for lockdown. So for us, it's business as usual. Nothing actually changed for us, except I just stopped getting on a plane, which was really nice. But that's only available because of this environment, this ecosystem. And so if I could talk through what the ecosystem looks like, there's sort of two or three main components of what successful ecosystems look like. Typically, organisations can use a number of different tech products, and our partners with Sports TG and Rostify and some others have really worked hard on how we solve making the technology talk to each other work, and we've all co-invested in that ourselves rather than leave it to sporting organisations to do it. I don't know of any sporting organisation that is well funded to do these things. There was probably a couple up until a few weeks ago, but I don't think that there's any in the market that could fund the true development and integration of technology to really fit the membership. So we start with the ecosystem, and for us, our learning management system is ultimately connected to what is a marketplace of content that can be connected to your website. So it's a public portal that makes your content, your courses available to your organisation. So be that the coaches or the referees or umpires or officials, stewards. So we kind of look at how we support a NSO or SSO or sporting organisation from the NSO level. And in fact, now we're starting to look at the sort of international federations all the way down to the grassroots. And so for us, the user experience for the member, for mum and dad who are coaching or refereeing or officiating, that's the most important piece for us. So how do we make that user journey easy? The first step of that is connecting to your website and connecting the products publicly out to that website in what we call our marketplace. The next part of the LMS is kind of our core. And so we have an area where all of the members, all of the users can log in and they can interact with the learning as that grows out. And learning for us grows organically. It's been a long time since we developed a full library of content and gone live and launched the full library. I think the last library we did that was with IGA. So what we typically see now is that organisations will come on and they'll start with maybe club coaching or level 1 coaching or officiating, and they start growing it. And over time, and fairly quickly, within 1 or 2 years, you can tend to get your full library built online to deliver to your membership. So all of those members are now available to be accessed online on any device, and you can now serve content to them and serve updates as the rules of games change or as incidents happen and you change your framework to respond to that. You can now correspond with them through your learning and assessment online. The next part of the LMS is really around the admin. So a neat feature for our learning management system is we can provide administration for the national sporting organisation, for the state sporting organisation, or for the clubs, or the individual clubs, so that clubs can manage their coaches and their officials or their referees. And then that information can consolidate up into the SSO, and all that information consolidates up to the NSO. So it allows you to stop the fragmentation of what you deliver online and also how you assess that online. And it also makes it very easy for an administrator of a club to allocate that training to an individual or to all the club. So again, makes things move quite rapidly. The last part of the LMS is really around assessment and the assessing apps that we've developed. And so assessing comes in two forms, as you'd appreciate. One is that I've completed my coaching online accreditation, and I'm going to go through a series of online assessments that I'm going to do. Those assessments can be, automatically marked, or it can be marked by an assessor further up inside my club or throughout the sporting organisation. The other part is then, okay, I'm going to book into a scheduled event where I'm actually going to go through my practical assessments, and I'm going to demonstrate my abilities to the assessor or to the coach. and then those assessments are marked by the assessor. They're marked from a peer, and I'm being assessed against that, and all that information is consolidating back into the learning management system. Once you've got this environment set up standalone, the next critical part comes through the integrations. So the integrations are with our partners at Sports TG, where we want to make it easy for individuals who have got a membership, a login to a member platform, to be able to be created inside the learning management system. So they don't sort of stand they don't stand alone. They stand side by side, and all the data is flowing in between. So I'll speak to, in particular, what we think is probably our most successful solution at this point in time, and that's for the customer, which is Surf Life Saving Australia. We've been working with Surf Life Saving Australia for, I think it's just finished 3 seasons. And what we started with 3 years ago was really trying to solve one course online. And since then, we've now developed the full assessment app, full integration, single sign-ons, live prerequisites going out for both the assessors and the individuals. So it's quite a complex solution. It works really well. And in fact, the stats coming out of Surf Life Saving was that the online assessment tool that we launched last year saved around 11,500 hours of volunteer administration time, just in the 4 months to end 2019. So that's what we'd like to try and achieve using the technology. So what I'll do, I just want to show you quickly one of the features of the LMS, and this is really around the hierarchy. So I just spoke to this. The hierarchy allows national sporting organisations to develop a curriculum or curate a curriculum at a national sporting organisation and deliver that back down through the states. Now, we do know in some states and some sporting organisations, things are a little bit different. So we are actually able to, from our perspective, deliver parts of libraries into each state. So, for example, we might choose to put 20% of the National Library into Queensland, but New South Wales takes 90% of the National Library, and then they have 10% of their own library that's custom to them. It means that the club environments reporting up through the state bodies can access their state-specific resources and leveraging, obviously, the national sporting organisations' resources. Our preference in all of this is to have a national sporting organisation lead, and that's really, from our perspective, just around getting the most out of the dollar, the limited dollar that there is. So rather than each of the individual states kind of replicating information themselves, is trying to do that from a national perspective. And then if there needs to be, minor tweaks by state because of some legislation changes or something that's different in that state, then building out micro-learning assets to tap into the national curriculum. So that's really important for us, along with having the ability for club administrators to allocate training, report on that training, see who's accredited to run the water on the weekend or coach the under-10s team. So all of this information is set up so it's kind of self-serve and super quick. So if I look at the solution that we have for Surf Life Saving Australia, this is there's 7 states in the Surf Life Saving solution. There's none in the ACT. And there's 314 clubs, and then we've got about 380,000 members in the LMS. So all that information again is available live and at the tap of a button, really.
Paul, I might just quickly jump in. There's just been a question come through on the integration, and it's one that I could touch on and for you to elaborate a little bit further. Sort of said, so if our organisation was using etrainu for their members to complete online coaching courses, that accreditation or qualification would have been made available in some way on my Sports TG membership. And absolutely, that's the sole point of the integration, and that's the way we work. And the different business rules can be set up between the two organisations. But I think that was you might have a little bit that you can add in there, Paul. But that's certainly the integration pathway that we've taken, an approach that we've taken is two organisations working together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think learning is part of a journey, and so if we take an integration where with Sports TGs, they'll typically have all the members and all the clubs and all that data available. That's where we like to get our data from. It keeps the data nice and clean and consistent. It means that we don't have two side-by-side data sets. So we like to get the users from Sports TG. We like to be able to take people through a learning journey. So let's talk about coaching. Might be a club coach that has I'm going to move up to a level 1 coach, and so the prerequisite to level 1 coach is club coach, and then I'm going to move through the ranks. We like to be able to push all that data back to Sports TG because in the perfect world, what we want to be able to do is in the comp management solution, if you want to allocate a referee to a game, then you want to make sure that they've got the relevant accreditations to be able to do the role that you've put them in. And so closing the loop with data is really what we do, what we continue to improve on. And as more and more organisations talk about their unique problem, then that's really for Sports TG and ourselves to make sure that we're solving that using the data. So we do that also with Surf Lifesaving Australia. We have a data flow between their two in-house member platforms and what they call SurfGuard. And so we pull data live out of the databases. So if someone is going through an assessment for maybe an IRB crew, the prerequisite of IRB driver to drive the rubber duckies, the prerequisite for IRB driver is IRB crew. And so we get that prerequisite from the Surf Lifesaving database, and we also can get it from ourselves if that person has just completed that proficiency at the time. So yeah, the integration is really important around that perspective, and certainly us pushing and pulling data is super important to make this work for you as an organisation. Any more questions on that, Cam?
No, that's I've got the thumbs up from that one, so that looks like it's addressed it, mate.
Okay, terrific. Look, what I'll do, rather than go through a kind of a pitch of all the features and benefits of our platform, what I thought I'd do is actually show you some of our customer solutions. Hopefully that's a little bit helpful. They're all a little bit different. There's a underlying logic to them all, but ultimately we do different things for different organisations. So I'll start with Surf. I think we were just doing some numbers this morning. We've got on our in our stable, in our family of customers, 14 NSOs and SSOs that we work with. So Surf Lifesaving, the ones I'm going to show you today is Basketball Australia, and I can see Rob online here today. Okay, is Heidi here as well? Can't see Heidi there. Maybe Heidi. Oh, there's Heidi. So Basketball Australia just launched about a month or so ago. Water Polo Australia, they've got theirs, which is called the Learning Pool. BMX Australia. Touch Football, which is part of the NRL stable. Speedway Australia. And then some of our international partners, so the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, and probably the unluckiest organisation from a timing perspective, the XFL, which launched the weekend after the Super Bowl, and there's now I think they got through 4 rounds before they had to close their inaugural season. So unfortunate timing for the XFL. So what I'll do is I'll just show you the Surf Lifesaving solution to start with. So I'm actually logged into the LMS here and I'm in looking at one of the courses. So I thought we might start at a course. And so just to give you an idea, we built a course with Surf Life Saving and the Australian Childhood Foundation, which is the Safeguarding Children and Young People Awareness course. We're also developing a reverse course. So this is for their adults members. We're also building another one for the children, so they can be aware of what's available to them. So I'll just take 20 or so seconds to start a course and just give you a sense of what e-learning looks for us.
This course will take approximately 20 to 45 minutes to complete. Child abuse and exploitation may be an issue with which you are familiar, or this may be the first time you've had to think about it. As you work through this course, you may begin to feel overwhelmed. By the end of this course, you will build an awareness of what constitutes child abuse and child protection, an understanding of your obligations to children and young people under Surf Life Saving Australia's member protection policy, and the confidence to be able to take appropriate action when you become concerned for the safety of a child or young person. Please
Okay, so this is just a little bit of a feel for one of the courses that we've developed, which is their safeguarding course. And I guess the thing that we've identified as we work through sporting bodies is, fortunately for Surf Life Saving, they had the funding available to go and develop that course with a really reputable partner in the Australian Childhood Foundation. A lot of sporting organisations can't afford to do that. And so what we've done with Surf Life Saving is we've partnered with them and we've said, look, your course is really fantastic for Surf Life Saving. Why don't we build a generic course for sport and make it available at a much lower cost to the sporting bodies to license with us. And so we've done that with them. And then as organisations have built out their own frameworks and policies, we can add on a micro-learning module to the front or back of their safeguarding course, so it's specific to your organisation. So again, where we're trying to help NSOs not have to, or SSOs not replicate the same work at a state level, we do that at a national level. We're also thinking across NSOs and sporting bodies. And so we've actually done that with another group, with the Governance Institute of Australia. We've built a governance in sport series and curriculum, which was built in partnership with the Governance Institute of Australia and purely for committee members. So again, we're looking at how we support grassroots, so every function of a club, from the committee all the way through to the individual membership. So I'll just have a little poke around the Surf Life Saving solution. This is actually their live production version. So they started off with us just with their bronze medallion course, which I think is in, I think it's in here, safety and wellbeing, which was about 11, it's not in there. It's about 11 modules in the bronze medallion. But as we've evolved, we've developed more and more courses for them. We've worked with an organisation called Autism Spectrum to build an inclusive beaches course. That was a program funded from the ILC. We also developed what is their sporting courses, which most courses in the Surf Life Saving Australia movement are free, with the exception of sport. And so you can see in here, some of these courses are actually paid. And if we reflect on the hierarchy that we spoke about before, some states have different pricing for each of the individual courses. So what we're able to do as part of this solution is deliver the exact same course in each state, but at different price points. One of our new NSOs, which we are in the process of migrating and going live in July, this was a key function for them. They were replicating, I think, about 65 to 100 courses in each state, different pricing. So every time you had to change something in one course, you had to change it, 8 times. So our platform just gets away from that, and we can serve the one course at 8 different prices if required. And also it means that when you do an update, you can update it really quickly and not have to worry about, updating it 8 times basically. So yeah, courses can be paid or free, and courses can also have a prerequisite. So for instance, this surf boat elective may actually have a prerequisite of something else, okay? And that prerequisite could be a function of age, it could be a function of another course, or it could be a function of some other activity like active membership or something else. And so that's where, again, the integrations become quite neat. We are talking to some organisations about, having a prerequisite of so many hours, that they may have done for coaching, related back into a prerequisite for a next level course. So again, instead of trying to track these things in spreadsheets, which I know a number of organisations try and do, you just use the technology to do that. The next thing I just wanted to show you was what's become really important just recently is the training event calendar. And so this training event library was set up as part of what we developed for the assessments. And so you can see, I'll just take off test club. You have a look in December, obviously surf is well into their season. So what we were able to do this season with Surf Lifesaving is have their proficiencies assessed at each of the beaches, and that's not new. That was happening each year. But make a calendar of all of those training events and by club. And so if I was, had to do my IRB driver proficiency and I was part of the North Curl Club, but on that date I was away camping, well, what I could do is I could go and have a look at a club nearby. So nearby Curl is North Stone. So I could go and have a look to see if there was anything at North Stane for a particular course. Okay, so we've opened that up now, and as the assessors and administrators publish the courses, people can enrol into those courses. And I better not do this because it's their production environment. As they enroll, you can fix your numbers. So you can say, oh, there's only 5 spaces here, or there's 20. We've also, for surf, included the function where they might say, we can take 15 people into our course, but we'll also take 3 people from outside of our club because we've got that capacity. So again, just using the technology to do that. The function that allowed people to get moving really rapidly with COVID-19 was obviously a lot of face-to-face training has been cancelled. Inside the training event calendar is the ability to launch a webinar. So we've put in a function that allows people to put their own Zoom link or WebEx or Google Hangouts or any of the other Skype tools. And so the training event calendar stayed the same. It's just the location changed from being at Alameda Beach through to a Zoom call, and then people would log on and do their training with the trainer. Now, obviously, for some organisations and some activities, that's not possible. We were joking with Surf Lifesaving around how we would train people to do paddleboarding using a ruler and a desk chair, but we didn't think we could get it done. So really, that's going to come back to the function. But one of our non-sporting organisations, which is the Real Estate Institute of Queensland, they very early on moved all of their face-to-face training to online right through to the end of August. And so they just went through all of their events, changed them from physical locations to webinars, and they kept moving. And so the training event calendar then rolls into the assessment app that is tied into it as well. So has anyone had, I'd imagine everyone's had a fairly large disruption in face-to-face training and assessment. Is anyone still struggling with a solution for that function right now? And I'll leave that for you to Cam to see if anyone responds to that.
We have a quiet bunch online here today, Paul. But yeah,
Okay.
if you do have any feedback through, just type it through, and I'll feed it back through to Paul. And I think that the calendar functionality and being able to link it in with an online tool like Zoom or something like that is just a fantastic feature. And you're just seeing different organisations adapting in different ways, given what we're all facing right now at the moment. In particular, we kicked these things off last week, and we've had huge numbers come through. And I just think it's great that everyone's staying engaged and thinking outside the box on what they do at the moment. Well, probably one from me. You've obviously there's actually been one that's just come through. BA has explored deferring practical elements or doing something similar classes of online meetings. Decision is still to be reached. So that's something that's come through from Rob Flood to us at the moment. What are you seeing across sports and online learning, online education? I guess it can be sliced out and carved out many different ways. It doesn't necessarily need to be your traditional course where you get an accreditation. The work that you're doing could be as simple as people logging into a platform and sharing out a work from home training video or an online skills video with a basketball in their hand and shooting a hoop in the backyard. Is that right, Paul?
Absolutely. In fact, the biggest change that we've seen in the last 2 weeks is people wanting to obviously develop assets really quickly. So as you'd appreciate, developing assets to the standard that we've developed here takes time and resources. So we've actually had a huge amount of content starting to come through, which is just, videos that have been shot on mobile phones. There could be podcasts. There could just be documents. So people are saying, can you just get our information up? And so what we're seeing is, if you think about how the training library starts or is set up, is having sort of ad hoc content available. So it could just be a series of coach videos that people are using. So yeah, that's probably been the biggest shift is probably around the quality. The great thing for me is when we're developing content, sometimes all the logic is in everyone's heads. And so just to be able to get it out in a video is a really good start point to get people engaged and moving. And Marlon might want to jump in. Marlon's, who's part of our team, been in the learning industry for about the same time as I have. And, it's really about how we engage this cohort, this group of people through these times, because we don't want people to drop out of sport through this time. We actually want people to keep engaging and also keep the functions running. So I know for us, as this whole thing is unraveling, people are saying, we need to extend our, accreditations by 6 months or 12 months. What does that mean for us from a risk point of view? What does that mean that we need to do today to sort of cover our risks through that time? So, yeah, so for us, we're seeing how the content is evolving really rapidly.
Hi, it's Marlon here. I think just to dovetail what Paul was saying, in addition to that, there's obviously, as he mentioned, with regards to the governance and compliance side of this, regardless of what level of sport you're in, there's those considerations. But then there's the engagement, and the engagement level for members who, for most organisations, sporting this is, the club or this particular sport is a huge part of these people's lives. So it's really important for those of you, that are listening in on this today to consider how do we remain engaged, but continue to try and add some value to our members in these sort of, uncertain, not when I say uncertain, in that there isn't that consistency and that habit of, heading to training or heading to the games and doing that level of engagement. So, sporting clubs can do many things, even as Cam mentioned, even if it's just a video around some training or notes from the coaches or administrators, even in video format for now, as you build out capability. It's a good way for clubs to extend themselves for something that they thought that they should do, but now it's a compelling reason. And then in addition to that, as I said, just remaining engaged.
Yeah, that's super relevant. I think just to cover off, I think we've only got a few minutes left, but the last part, which ties into this conversation, is around the reporting. So for Surf Lifesaving, their completion rates across their organisation from a volunteer organisation is up around 80%, which most corporates would be quite envious of. And we've worked really hard both with the engagement of the content on that. So as some of this content starts evolving, it's going to be interesting to use some of the data, and hopefully it shows some really positive effects, and use that data to help shape the future direction of the products as well. So we're quite excited to see what happens with the data as this moves forward, as people move further online. We've certainly seen a spike in all of our user numbers, which is not unsurprising. I think we're up, I checked it this morning, we're up about 36% in traffic. So yeah, what we're seeing is bodies or organisations or individuals are seeing this as becoming the norm. And so it's almost like, how do we just digitise the process that we were doing face-to-face and we took for granted, and deliver that online in the most cost-effective and fastest manner possible. And that's kind of been our focus over the last sort of 3 weeks, when we started looking at how this pandemic was going to impact ourselves and our customers. We're fortunate in our business that only about 12% of our business, which was in the hospitality industry, has suffered really badly from a straight financial perspective. But it seems that everyone else so far has been, of our customers, are tracking okay. And I just wanted to finish on a question. I had an idea over the weekend, and it was around how we help support grassroots sports, because what we're seeing is everyone's doing it quite tough. Obviously, people have paid membership fees, and then we can't play, we can't get that enjoyment. And so I was interested to see if there would be any support in starting a conversation around lobbying the government to see if this year's membership fees to sporting organisations could be treated as a charitable donation off your tax, just to try and curb, mum and dad or individuals trying to get their membership money back out of the sporting bodies, or how you're actually treating that this year with the uncertainty. I think the last thing that any sporting organisation needs is to have that money pulled back out, and saying that there'll be individuals who will need that money taken back out as well. So interested to get your feedback on that as well.
I'll jump in here from our view, Paul, and we've worked with our customers in terms of trying to help them along the journey, and encouraging all customers that we work with and community clubs out there, first and foremost, to have a refund policy in place if they don't. It's something that it's never come up before, and it's something that we never thought we'd have to experience, and it's sort of thrown a curveball in there. So that's the first part of what we've encouraged. The second part is, because a lot of these competitions and a lot of the sporting bodies from the national level have communicated down, the likes of an AFL, the likes of football, that their competitions have been postponed. So they haven't been cancelled. They haven't been totally called off yet. So with that in mind, let's keep on holding on to those fees if we can. If there's a parent that, is facing hardship or whatever, and they really need a refund to take place, we'll work with that customer hand in hand and that club hand in hand to help facilitate that refund on behalf of that organisation. The New South Wales government, obviously here in New South Wales, they have a voucher scheme where they've issued $100 to each child towards their sports registration fees, and those children or those parents get 2 $100 vouchers each year, one in the first half of the year, one in the back half of the year. And it's my understanding, if a sports voucher has been used towards a child's registration, that the government aren't asking for that money back. So the New South Wales government have come to the party. I can't speak for the other states at this point in time, because I know that is an initiative in New South Wales. So that's something that the government here has certainly enforced, which is a great one.
Yeah, that's terrific. And look, I guess just to leave off, we did build a COVID-19 course which is just around, how do we minimise or prevent spread. We've made it free to everyone, publicly, customer or not customer. So we encourage you, if you want access to that course, it's available publicly, individually off our website. Or if there's an organisation, all of our customers have got that available to them in their academies. But if you've got an organisation, you do have a legitimate problem that you're trying to solve, then we're only too happy to support you to get an academy spun up so that we can get that course out to your membership as soon as possible. So that offer is there from our organisation to yours, and you can reach us, obviously through our emails that are online. I think in the invite, or through LinkedIn or through our website as well. So if anyone does need that, doesn't have access to something, then by all means, please utilise it. Our intention is to update it probably in another week or 10 days once we get a bit more of a sense of where it's heading next. So yeah, it will keep growing organically as well. Is there anything else you want me to cover off on, Ken?
Paul, I think you've done a fantastic job. We just want to thank you for joining us today. I will send a note around to everyone who's joined us today with a recording and a link to the webinar, like I've done for others. In that, we'll also include some details for Paul and also Marlon. Really appreciate you guys giving up your time. And if you do need any more information, just go to etrainu, that's a letter u.com. To find out more information about etrainu and how they can assist your sporting organisation. And just hope everyone stays safe. We will be back next week for one edition, lunchtime on Wednesday, where we'll be focusing on our Next Generation Game Day membership platform. So the details of that lunch and learn session will go out later this week. So stay tuned. And Paul and Marlon, thanks very much for your time. And to everyone else out there, have a fantastic day.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.